Hello. Am I audible, Sonal? You there?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. So this is the open session and probably the last session for week 8. So the idea is to try and get your doubts cleared for this week questions, and obviously everything, if anything is there in the practical part, the coding component, right from week 1 to week 8. So that is quite welcome, right? So we'll start with you people asking your doubt, right? So we'll try to keep this session open ended, okay, where you can I guess you can unmute yourselves and ask your doubt. If by any reason that is not possible, you can post your doubt on chat.
So,
Okay.
is it
Yeah,
possible?
yes.
Is it possible for you to give a summary, like, of all the codes from week 1 to week 7? Like,
So codes, is it for Solvit instructor?
yes,
So the codes have been given, right? The codes
like,
where
if you could give a summary, like, little brief, just to,
summary.
yeah, just to revise and
So you want a written document or what? Or now from my side?
like, you could like explain a little bit, like revision type of session. I was wondering.
Okay. Oh, so revision, see, revision type, these sessions are generally revision type only, right? We keep it open. Why do we keep it open? Because we want, so there is a difference between the session that we have on Wednesday and today's session. Okay, Friday's session is okay. We know that it is a coding part, so it is completely different. Okay, we can also call it a lab kind of session, right? Where we have a problem statement and we try to solve it with the help of some basic coding that we have learned in the content. Okay, but the Wednesday session is confined to that particular week. Okay, so this week's Wednesday session would be on the week 8, where you can ask questions, activity, practice, and doubts related to slides and screencast from week 8. But Saturday sessions are something which will cover the entire part. Okay, so I've kept myself repeating that you can ask doubts from this week also, and if there is anything from the previous week. Okay, so if there is anything in particular, we can talk. Otherwise, yeah, we can do that, taking, giving a walkthrough from all the session. But that is what we have planned for coming weeks, right? So what we do, you may have seen that in the first 4 weeks, we have had a session with faculties where you can give a where we gave a brief overview of all the content that we have covered in first 4 weeks. Okay, so this before quiz 2 we will be trying to do the same. Okay, so that will be from week 4 5 to 8 specifically, with a brief overview of week 1 to 4 as well. And we might also have faculties join in where you can doubts ask your doubts in more details. Okay, because so they like have more industrial experience than quite more than us, right? So like you can go into more details of industrial question, but anything that is related to content, that is what we try to deal with. Okay, so yes, we will have a session that will give you overview of the entire part. Okay, coming, so probably that will have it in the next week. Okay, but nothing is stopping you from asking questions from any week, particular any week, or this week in Saturday session. Is that clear?
Can we have a discussion on the project?
Yeah. So discussion on project, you can, as I guess I've mentioned in the discourse also. So if you go through the problem statement, and if you find anything that is confusing or any doubt, anything that is not clear, you can ask in the normal live session also. Okay.
Can you explain?
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Sir, one thing, can you briefly discuss the week 8 content? Like, what are the things we need to remember in terms of the exam perspective from week 8?
Okay. So
Like,
week 8.
like there are
Hmm.
so for each topic there are so many things we can learn. Like, we can go deep of for each topic. So, what are the, like, what we are expected to prepare?
Okay. So see, week 8 content is on the front end, right? So week 8 is basically dealing with front end part of the your application. Okay. So what do you look at when you talk about front end? All right. So you talk about the validations, right? Some server, sorry, some client side validations. Okay, not the server side. So with client side validation, how do you do that? You do that with the help of JavaScript. Okay, basic. Okay, how do you do client side validation apart from JavaScript? HTML, right? By HTML, it provides a basic level of validation. Okay, so it is called as HTML form control. Okay, so where you can find out how HTML is useful in validation from the client side. So this is about the client side part. Okay, the validation part. Other than that, as I've said in the last session, right, where we talked about basically introducing JavaScript. Okay, so what are we looking at there in the JavaScript? We're talking about simple JavaScript functions. Okay, scope of variables. All right. So this is important. And then similarly, how we'll relate this JavaScript with HTML? That is document object model. So I've given quite a a brief but still detailed example on DOM yesterday. So that is something that we need to look at. Then there is always a numerical part which is there. Okay, so when you talk about front end, we will again talk about some bandwidth and things like that. So I guess there is a numerical, right? We have discussed yesterday. So go through the numericals very in detail. Okay, go through yesterday's lecture because that will help you a lot in
Yes, sir.
others.
Numerical is okay.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything that you found in the content that is in the week 8 specifically? Is it is like looks like very deep and you don't want to know what is the limit?
So I have doubt on PHP, like what is it? And
PHP is the scripting language for web browsers or like web application. You can create web application on PHP. See what we are doing with Python. We are creating server. What we are doing with in the front end side, we are creating some views, right? We are writing HTML, and that is rendered by the browser. How are we dealing with variables? Again with Python. So whatever Python is doing here, whatever JavaScript is doing here, can all be done with the help of PHP. Okay, so when you a simple understanding comparison, so when you write a Python program, okay, you write a Python program to say the compiler that this is Python. Everything written inside this will be should be considered as a Python code. And how do you determine that? By .py extension, right? Similarly, the PHP files will have .php extension. Okay, so what does that mean? Everything, what you can comprehend from this, that everything that can be done in Python can be done in PHP also. Just that it is another way of creating websites. Okay, but we are employing to this part.
Like PHP doesn't include HTML kind of things. You would need
PHP. No, see, Python does not include HTML. You have to embed or you have to relate HTML with Python, right?
So
Python is helping you to render HTML as and when required. Similarly, PHP will help you to render HTML as and when required. HTML will be anyway there. HTML, CSS will be there.
So should we use Python or PHP? Like which
You
is
should use, see, it depends. It is actually a personal choice, but since we are following Python for this course, it is better to understand things in Python first, and then you can move on to PHP.
but like normally, like if you see big companies like Google or Amazon, like do they use PHP or Python? Like what scripting language do they use?
Yeah, so they generally use PHP because even if you see Facebook was primitively or basically written in PHP because it is specifically to web development. Python gives us a micro framework called Flask. With the help of that, we are creating web application in Python. Okay, so like as I have been saying, like in coming in last 2-3 lectures, that Python has its roots in every field. Okay, what you can do with Python cannot be done with PHP because it is PHP is confined to only web application. But Python is everywhere. It is there in web application also. It is there in everywhere. It is like data science, machine learning. It is there everywhere. Simple programming, GUI development.
And sir, if we learn the Python completely, then like the concepts will be similar with PHP, right?
The
Like if
logic
we want
remains
to see,
same. Doesn't matter what language you're using. The logic remains same, right? So here we have conditional statement. There we'll have conditional statement. Here we'll have classes and objects. There we'll have classes and objects.
okay, only the syntax will change.
Yes, the syntax will change, the way of declaring things, the way of embedding a web service into the application differs.
And sir, the problem I'm facing is it is especially for week 8. So the in practice and graded assignments, the options I'm not confident about that which option is correct and which is not. Most of the options are like similar to me, like two options are similar kind of thing. Then how can I choose? This issue I'm facing. So can you suggest some like books or some other material so that I can like read that little deeply?
Okay, so see this course application development one has been designed on multiple things. Okay, so I was discussing about PHP, right? So when talking about web application, one should think about PHP. Okay, and things like, yeah, as Sonal mentioned, things like ASP, JSP, things like that. Okay, which are specifically designed for web development. Why would come up with Python? Okay, so so that's the same philosophy is used by the books, right? So if you are having a specialized language which is there for web development, why would one do that with Python? That is the reason we have documentation. Okay, so there are multiple things that we are bringing at one place. We are bringing HTML, CSS, JavaScript, micro frameworks. Okay, the extension of that micro frameworks, deployment. Okay, APIs. So these are all different fields. We are bringing them all together to create an application, right? So the content that we have designed is not very common and cannot be very easily found in one place. Okay, so you can have books for Python, you can have books for API design, you can have books for JavaScript, but you cannot have book for web development with the course that we are taking. Okay. So it's very hard to find a resource, find a particular resource, but I guess what we are giving you in the form of resources, like, so this we generally see, we focus on generally documentation, right? So you may have seen from quiz 1 we go in quite detail in the documentation, so don't worry, that will not that is something that happens once in a while. Okay, so if we go very deep in the documentation, but whatever we have focused on, we have pressed on that, okay, this is something that is important from the documentation, then knowing about that will be that will be very helpful in quiz and other graded examinations.
Okay.
Okay, so see, if you want to, so when you are saying that, oh, I want to get clear idea of options that are there in week 8, what are we dealing with in week 8? Front end, right? So in front end, what are we looking at? We are looking at, as I said, we're looking at validations. Okay, validation by HTML forms and JavaScript. How deep are we going in JavaScript? That is evident from the slides. Okay, and I have said twice or thrice now that we won't go into much detail. We will not go further, a step further from DOM manipulation. Okay, for as far as this course is concerned. So you go through that part and then leave the rest.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question related to the
Yes.
project. What all libraries are we allowed to use? Like it has been mentioned that we need to plot a few graphs, trend lines. So we need Matplotlib, but then it's not mentioned on the slides.
Yeah, so see, the evaluation of project is not like that of lab assignments. Okay, so you can decide as to you can decide with that what I mean. What should be the structure or of your application? Okay, how are you defining your application? But when it comes to frameworks, it is like we are emphasizing you to use only those that we have used before. Okay, so it is not mentioned that you need to use matplotlib, but you have to go with matplotlib. Okay, there are other methods of plotting graphs, but yeah, matplotlib is something that is very easily understood and in knowledge of everybody that is even studying and evaluating your project. Okay, so matplotlib you can use. So
Sir,
again, in case of huh, yeah, you just let me finish
sir,
with
I'm
this
asking
part.
that can we
So
use? Okay,
yeah, so when you're using with you want to now deal with web application, you want to use the micro framework. So what you'll use, Django or Flask? So we have studied extensively Flask here. It's better to go with Flask. Okay, CSS there is no limit. Okay, but there is CSS Bootstrap, there is Tailwind CSS. There are multiple things, right? But what have we used? We have used simple CSS and gone with Bootstrap. So why should we deviate just to if a same thing can be happened or everything that you want can be happened at one place, okay, with the known frameworks. Okay, now about yeah, somebody was asking about WT forms, right? It was in the discourse, somebody was asking with WT forms. You can go ahead, right? Because no issues with that. But see, since validation is not a big deal for the project, okay, I guess the problem statement states that you have to employ a basic validation. Since it is not done in very detail, you can do it with JavaScript and HTML5 form control, right? Why do we need to see? We if we try to employ so many other frameworks, if we are open to use them, if we try to employ so many other frameworks, you will somewhere end up with at the end of the day you will use the frameworks but not be able to complete the entire functionality that is required. Okay, so the basic idea should be to completely employ or completely bring about what is there in the graded and recommended part. Okay, after that what you want to use is up to you. Okay, but the frameworks that we have worked with in the course are highly recommended to use. Okay, so when we talk about the REST, so we have studied about REST, right? So REST says that it should have uniform interface. Okay, now if one student works with Flask and other student works with Django, it becomes very difficult to understand the code, the variations that are there. So what about basically I'm trying to say here, the interface that we are working with is not uniform. Okay, so that is the thing. So we have been propagating that you use Flask. It is better to use Flask because whatever you want to achieve. So the problem statement is designed in a way that you don't have to, you will not have to go to other frameworks for certain procedure or what we say certain logic. Okay, Ruel, am I make sense here,
Yes,
Pushpa?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, now apart from that, if there is any framework that is not mentioned, just say the name. Okay, this is the framework that I want to use. Is it what we say allowed? Okay, now you want to encrypt. You would want to encrypt your passwords, right? We have not used any framework to encrypt passwords. Basically, the reason being there are so many and there are very simple. Like they are so many and they are very simple. So focusing on one will not make any difference. Okay, so you can simply go through the various libraries that would encrypt your password and use. So that is not a very big deal, and that is why your project will not entirely depend on that. Frameworks like Flask and all, your project will entirely depend on that. So you should not deviate with those things. Other smaller things are okay. Plotting graphs, that is something that I want only for that particular part of project where I'm seeing the trend lines. So if I'm okay with Matplotlib, but I want to So that is the idea.
Okay, sir, thank you. Also, like, can you please give a brief on the video that we need to make? Like, how exactly do we need to
Yeah.
record the
So
video?
what you need to do is, it is like a walkthrough. Okay. So how do you review something? You just you record, and then you show what are the features of that. Okay. So what you need to do is, you need to open your app and give us a walkthrough of your application. Okay, this is login page. So once you log in, this happens. Once you so once you are not logged in, it will ask you to do this. It will ask you to do that. Okay, now that you are logged in, you are on this page. On this page, we'll see certain things. Okay, let's say number of trackers. Okay, here in the trackers, we can see that there are the last visit of that tracker and the last recorded of the tracker. So you have to explain your controllers basically, what you have employed. So it should be around 2 to 3 minutes video. Okay, and then yeah, you don't need to go into much details of your application structure.
All right.
Okay, how to choose whether should we create API or go with templates? You have to use both, right? Templates are also required, APIs are also required.
Sir, this is Vipin. I have a very basic question. So it's mentioned in the statement, the problem statement, that CSS is optional. So just wanted to understand, like, is there any bonus marks, or is there any hidden mark scheme for CSS?
There can be, yes.
That
So
can
there
be.
are certain, so see, now while evaluating, we'll have 2 to 3 factors based on the design of your application, based on the additional feature that you have given, which was not mentioned in the guidelines. Okay. So if you're creating a tracker application, we have not given you, for example, let's say if I'm to create the application, uh, uh, okay, so there is nothing like the streak, something like streak, right? So let's say I'm using a running tracker. Okay. In the running tracker, we have not given you any guideline to create the streak. Okay. So you're using running tracker like for 10 continuous days. So your streak is 10 here, right? So this is one small procedure, what we call it, a small thing that you can employ in an application which was not given. Okay. So that is the additional feature. Okay. So definitely you'll have marks for that. Okay, so this is thinking beyond what was given.
Okay. And like,
Okay.
what is the differentiation? Like, how many bonus marks will be awarded? What's the maximum number of bonus marks?
That is something we have not decided yet, because we are yet to, since the project statement has completely changed here, we had yet to, give what we say weightage on different parts. Okay, since we are, recommending you to use APIs, and probably it wasn't there in the last run. So here we need to also consider that. So there are certain distribution that we are still working on. And then in the last we'll decide on the bonus. Okay, so currently cannot comment on that.
So will there be like marks on like how we're presenting it, like aesthetically, like design elements and stuff, like for how we're presenting all the web page? So will there be marks for that?
So that is what you're doing with the help of video, right? So video will give us a prior knowledge of what you have created. Okay, and then once the Viva starts, you will also have to give the entire information once again from the scratch. There we'll ask you everything about the detail, your structure, the have you created the single file for everything? Have you created the different modules or not? If you have created with different modules, like how are they created? Okay, and things like that. So there will be probably a detailed information on this will be given, how as to will be given, as in you can ask in the live sessions, right? So this is what we are trying to do. If you have any doubt in understanding the guidelines, you can ask. Okay, so basically what I was trying to say here is that your Viva will be a detailed discussion of what you have given in that 2 to 3 minute video.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Rakesh.
So in the problem statement, it is recommended that we should use the validation form validation. So what type of validation can we do about the password? Like in the password, there can be like special characters. So in
That is
normal form,
completely
we can.
dependent
Yeah.
on you. That is completely dependent on, this is your app, right? You're the developer of app. You should decide what kind of password I will accept. Okay, and design validations according to that.
No, like to prevent the SQL injection. That is, I'm saying. Like in the
Okay.
normal form, we can remove the like reject if some user puts less special characters, we can only accept the alphanumeric. But in password, we should for a strong password, we should accept the special characters also. But there is a like security about the SQL injection. So how can I prevent that?
Okay. So for that, you need to see this form validation. This is what, this is front end validation. Okay, using form. And there is only so much you can do with that. A detailed validation can be done at the back end. So when you write your source code, the controller part, there you define your validation. Okay, that will prevent you from SQL injection.
Yes, sir. I'm asking that like what things if in the password, then we should reject the password. Like if there are delete in the delete portion in the password, um, then we should reject the password. Or if there is some semicolon in the password, we should reject the password. What can be the filter, like
In the
possible
slide,
filters?
uh, in the slides, it has been mentioned that they are not concerned with how secure the login or the app is. So I guess
That's what.
we can skip it.
Yeah, that's what. So I started about validation with that only, right? So we are not that concerned with the security of application unless you want to deploy it. Okay, so you're creating, but what I'm considering here is you're creating your application so that it is secure. Okay, and then you are able to deploy it later when you want. But this is not only for evaluation or grading, is what you think. Okay, so
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So normal.
that's what I'm saying. Hmm, that's what I'm saying. See, SQL, you need to first list out what all queries or what all queries like structure might change your database. Okay, and then you will have to what we say, you will have to design your validation. But you do, if you recall what I said in the first part, right? So you want some part of your password to get encrypted. Okay, whatever you write doesn't matter, that password includes the entire query that deletes your database, that string will be encrypted to some other thing. Okay, but if by any chance you're able to change that anything to any other thing, which is very hard to come back to that part. Okay, it is very tough to come back to that part. You don't need to think about all those validation techniques, what can be the query. Okay, see what I'm
Okay,
trying to
okay,
say
sir.
here
Yes, sir.
is
Got it. Yes, sir. Got it, sir. Got it.
just
Like
got it,
Caesar
right? Yeah,
cipher
whatever.
type of
So
things.
yeah, so this is your password. Let's say uh if somebody puts this password from user delete, so I'm not sure if this is a correct SQL query. Okay, if this is your password. Okay, and by any chance this password is able to go in and delete my database. Okay, what you need to do is do something here. Okay, that the password goes here, and after coming out it becomes like this. This is your encrypted password. Okay. Now this encrypted password will be checked every time. Doesn't matter what is written here. Okay. Now, if you have this, I guess there is no need to validate anything. Okay. So now you need to think about what this should be. Are you getting what I'm saying here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
Have to think about all possible ways of validating things.
so like what about accessibility? Like, is it necessary for any website on the internet to have accessibility? Is it mandatory or is it like optional thing?
What do you mean by accessibility?
Like for those disabled people, like we need a website which for color blinded people or who can't hear anything or see anything. We
For
need
that,
to
you need to
provide.
for that you need to understand what your target audience is. Okay.
It's not mandatory to include these things on your website in real world, right?
Yeah, so it is mandatory. It is, yeah, so you have to follow the accessibility principles. It is a good practice to follow the accessibility principles. Okay, it is a very good practice. Okay, but nobody is stopping you from doing that. If your application is something that cannot be accessed by, let's say, blind people, there is no stopping you from that. It is only not a beneficial part for you because you are cutting out those your audience. Okay, the one who uses your app.
It's because in Facebook or Google they don't use these things. It's for like normal audience.
Uh, yeah,
Like,
so we still cannot say that it is for normal audience because we are normal audience.
yeah, because I don't think disabled people can use Google or Facebook. They don't have additional features for that.
You see, there is a what we say, Google Speak, right? You can speak on it.
Okay,
Yes,
so
there should be in Google. Not sure in Facebook, but Google should be.
Yeah, so
it was made due to accessibility. Like,
maybe. See, because it is reducing a lot of burden of typing for normal people also. And if by any chance, if this is also helping out blind people, then it is a good thing, right? So I'm not sure if they have planned it to, make it accessible to blind people also, or was it just an invention or addition of technology? But that is something you decide because you would need, what your target audience is. Okay, and then if you are okay with okay with only limited people getting or working with your application, then there is no need to get it accessible. What is accessibility? Accessibility is making it accessible to large number of or large chunk of population. Doesn't matter what category they belong to, category as in normal people or other. Okay, so if not bothered about that, there is no need to do that.
so should we like include this in a project or like?
It is totally subjective, right? It depends on you what to put. So this tracker, so if you so it depends on the type of trackers that have been created, right? So if a normal person want to track his running thing, okay, wants to track what we say, the running part, one thing. Secondly, as mentioned as an example, the mood and things like that. There is no point of making this app accessible to person with disability. But what if I wanted this application to give me the idea of medication? Okay, let's say I have three type of tablets that I want to use. Okay, now that I'm creating a tracker that gives me information about my medicine. Okay, so, and if I'm a blind person, how would you approach this problem? You want to create a tracker, and so that a blind person can track his scheduling for medicine. How would you do that?
For that, we will need these features of accessibility.
We can use text to speech actually, like to remind him whenever like there's time for medication.
That's what. So if you're wanting a blind person to use, you need to, mandatorily employ the accessibility principles. Okay. If you say that, no, my app is for only tracking running and mood, and I'm not bothered about other type of trackers, then no need to, waste code. Okay. So if I am to create uh, uh, a tracker, I am to create a tracker for blind people, you should. So I'm a user. Okay. I want to create a tracker for myself. Okay. What does that tracker do? It gives me information on my what medicine should I take. Okay. Now that application. Now, if I'm thinking, what if, as a user, if I'm thinking, what if I wanted to take a smaller medicine, the round one. So there are three types of medicine, let's say a round, okay, spherical one, a capsule, and then there is a syrup. Okay. What if this application provides me different sounds for different application? Okay. So if it is a beep sound, I have to take the round, the spherical one. If it is a phone ring, I have to take the tablet. Okay. Or simply it says the tablet, or simply it says syrup, I'll have to take the syrup. So I will be very easily able to use that only if the application provides me this functionality. And if the application provides me this functionality, you have taken care of the accessibility of that application. Okay, but if application only gives me a visual part, okay, now you have to take this tablet, now you have to take this tablet, that will not be any use of me because I'm blind. There I have not taken care of the accessibility of this application. So it depends on what, as a developer of application, whom are you targeting? Okay, so as Sachin has said, that is one way of making a blind person use your application. But for that you need to have logic so that you can convert the text to speech thing. Okay.
Sir, hello.
Yes. So
So,
yeah, before that, Meg, are you clear with what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now go ahead. Yeah. Who's speaking?
Sir, I have a
yeah,
question. Vignesh.
Yes.
So, yeah, so we will be developing this application in local, right? How do we means we just need to zip this and then upload it in the document, the site, is it? Or should we host it somewhere?
Yes. Yes. In the portal. No. On the portal.
Okay, so it
You
will
can
be a
host it
static.
on.
Yeah.
You can host it on, if you're creating, let's say if you're creating your application on Replit, you can host it on Replit. Give us the link of Replit. Okay, but that is and that is not an alternative. That is an additional thing. You will by anyway have to provide the zip file to the portal.
Okay, so means we need to
Okay, it will be
put all the
evaluated.
sources. Yeah.
Yes. Whatever you are creating, you have to put that.
Okay, and we
Database
can
is also.
alternatively host it also and share you the link, right?
Yeah, that's what. No, all that is no, that's what I said. That is not an alternative. That is an additional thing that you can do.
Okay, all right, yeah.
sir,
Okay, so
hello.
if you're saying that I will not upload it on the portal, and but host it somewhere, I guess that will not help.
Okay, understood. So you need a source as well as if you, I mean, so if you want, they can host it also, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sir, do we need to
Yes.
include the requirements.txt file?
Do you have to include? See, this application, what you are providing, will be you will be submitting to us. Okay, we'll be going through the code and each and everything. Okay, but while explaining this application, it will be running on your system. Okay, so the idea is you keep your video on, screen shared, okay, and the application running. So requirement of these files, requirement.txt and things like that are required. Why? Because I guess there is also one more statement that is made in the guidelines that says that your application should be completely independent of the platform, right? Like it should be self-contained application, should not require any other environment for that.
Okay, okay.
For that you need to have all the required files with the code itself.
I was just like asking this with regards to some additional libraries that if we might include.
Yeah, so that is okay, completely okay.
Okay, cool.
So
So if you're
regarding
adding some external library or external, let's say you want to use some another module to add additional functionality, it can be a part of requirement.txt. No issues with that.
Sir,
Hello,
but everything
sir.
should be part of Python libraries, right? We cannot use non-Python, correct?
Yeah, obviously Python.
So
Hello, sir.
regarding the bonus marks, there was in the grading pattern document, it was mentioned that the bonus mark will be capped at 10 marks for the other activities like participation in discourse and all. So this will be the bonus on the project will be on top of it or included in that.
I'm not sure. Okay, I'll get back to you with this. I'm not sure with that.
Okay.
Sir, one problem from practice assignment week 8.
Okay.
The question number 8. Here in the Flask environment, app.route, it is just returning hello world. Then how it is a dynamic website?
Yeah, because whenever you are running that application and hitting that URL, the hello world is getting typed dynamically. Are you rendering some already saved files?
No, sir, but we are not using like any database or Excel to populate some data according to the user. Then how can it be dynamic?
See, because see, when is it static? Because when you will have the textual part written in the file and it is saved somewhere, then it is static. Okay, where is this hello world written and saved?
Okay, okay.
It is not written and saved anywhere, right? Every time you are returning that, it is getting typed dynamically. Okay.
Then
If you
if
change that
there
hello world, yeah, go ahead.
I'm asking that if we say, keep the hello world in a variable like v equal hello world, then will it be dynamically typed or static?
In that case also it will be dynamically typed only, because that where is that variable? Is it stored somewhere?
Okay, okay. Okay, so
You're creating
outside
it
the
right on the go. Whenever that app.route, that URI is called, your application, the function that is mapped to that URL is called, right? And that function generates your that variable there and assign value to it. Okay. When it will become static, when you call it with the help of, if this hello world is written to some other HTML file and you are simply rendering it, then it is a static content.
Okay, okay. Okay, so if there is some HTML file or TXT file, then it is static. But in that file, if we add data from database, then it will again dynamic.
Yeah, because again that file is getting created on the go. It is not saved
Okay, okay.
somewhere.
Okay, so runtime kind of concept is there, right?
Yeah, runtime.
Okay, okay, sir, got it. Like if the page content is ready before runtime, then it is static, and if the page content is like generated while runtime, then it is dynamic. Is it?
Yes, simple.
Okay, sir, got it. Thank you. And sir, can
Okay,
you
so
explain the question number 9 also?
okay, what is question number 9? Just give me a minute. Can you give a
Yes, sir, I
brief
can
idea
say.
of what question number 9 is? Okay, yeah.
It is DOM updates.
Okay, DOM updates. Just a minute. Is it a part of practice question?
Yes, sir, practice question.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, which of the following statements are true in context of DOM updates? Okay, so generating a page completely through DOM update is a good for accessibility of the page. Okay, generating a page completely through DOM updates will make the page almost inaccessible. HTML is generated on client side and cannot be done by browser with limitations. All of the above. Okay, so what we need to find out, which of the following is a true? Okay, so see, generating a page completely through DOM, that is what you're doing. You are completely through DOM means you are creating the DOM. How do you create DOM? Um, uh, how do you, what we say, how do you create the HTML file without actually typing it with the help of JavaScript, right?
Uh, I'm not able to understand this part. Like generating like completely through DOM updates means what? And what is the like accessibility means what?
Accessibility as in how accessible are you with getting the components or the objects of that particular DOM, nodes of that particular DOM.
So, but if DOM structure is there, we can access the DOM objects, no? Like
Yeah.
it should not be any problem
Yeah, no,
to access
with
the DOM.
JavaScript, right? That with JavaScript, generating a page completely to DOM updates is good for accessibility of the page. Is see, with JavaScript you can what we say with JavaScript you can pinpointly update or take that part and take that particular object with the help of JavaScript on your document on your file and make changes in that. Okay, but if JavaScript is not there and you want to make changes in your document, how are you going to do with DOM? You don't have HTML file here, you just have the DOM.
So without the HTML file, how can there be DOM?
No,
DOM
HTML file
means
you
the
don't have.
no. I'm asking that DOM means the structure like div, anchor tag, p tag. These are the DOM, right?
Yes.
Okay, then the first question is like why the first
See,
option
let's
is
say,
wrong?
see what. Okay, what you're saying is, okay, why it is wrong. Generating a page completely to DOM updates is good for accessibility of the page. See, it is why it is not, because you are having a DOM, right? You are having a DOM, which is a representation of an HTML file. Okay, and now you want to make changes to a part, or let's say you want to make changes to multiple parts of that DOM. Okay, you don't have
Okay, okay.
JavaScript, you don't know what the HTML is, you just have the DOM structure. Okay, and now you want to make multiple changes, or let's say you want to make change to similar type of objects in that DOM. Let's say there are 10 div tags and you want to add one change to all the 10 div tags in that DOM. Okay, you will have to make those changes in each of the node, each of the div node by yourself.
Yes, yes.
It is completely through DOM updates. What does it mean? You are not having a source, or you're not having a tool to target a DOM, or you do not have HTML.
Then we can put classes and IDs.
Yeah, how will you put classes and IDs? You do not have
Using
HTML.
like, okay,
You just have the structure of DOM.
okay.
Okay, then you'll have to go personally to that particular div and add a class. And then after adding a class, how will you add that change? With the help of JavaScript, right? You will get element by class,
Yes, with the help of
class name.
JavaScript.
Yeah, how do you do that? Document dot get element by class name. Then you will add class name, and then all the elements with the same class name will be retrieved, and then you can make changes. But without JavaScript, only DOM is there, no HTML. It will make very hard to make changes in the HTML, the DOM or the structure.
Okay, so better accessibility is like create the DOM using HTML and then update the part of it.
So what do you do? Conventionally, what you're doing, you're creating HTML. Who is creating the DOM? Browser is doing that in the background.
Yes.
Right? So at the end of the day, what are you? You're using a simple path by creating HTML, which is easier because you can assign classes and IDs by yourself. Creating is
Yes.
different. Updates, we're talking about updates here.
Yes, that is the problem. Like updating DOM means what? So I
Updating DOM
cannot
means
update
making
the
changes
DOM,
in
right?
the. Yeah, it will be very tough. How it will be tough? There are 10 div tags. You want to make a change to all the 10 div tags. You have to go to each and every div tag one by one and then make that change.
Okay.
You cannot collect them as a group because you do not have JavaScript. You cannot collect them as class because you don't have HTML.
Okay, got it. And sir,
Right?
will there be any?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Will there be any solve with instructor session for the how create to the login page and how like fetch the user, this type of thing?
Yes, there will be. So
Because
we are yet to come
from
with. So in the week 9, we deal with security, right?
yes.
So while talking about security, we'll talk about login page. Okay, so I'll create an
Okay.
activity. Just we do it in week 2, 3, 4. How we have done in week 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we'll create activity like that. Okay. Still not decided what the details. So question statement is decided later, right? So I'll let you know.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right.
So, what is V8 JavaScript engine, Brave, Edge, Chromium? Like, what's the difference?
These are JavaScript engines where JavaScript is run. So these are the JavaScript engines are embedded in the browser which run the JavaScript. So we say that browser run JavaScript, right? Browser render the HTML, and the JavaScript is a language that is run on by the browser. But what is the engine? What is the compiler of that JavaScript? It is actually the engine. Okay, so these are engines are embedded in the browser, which help JavaScript, which convert the JavaScript written by us into machine language, and then things are executed accordingly.
But so, like in the site, Chrome, Chromium, Brave, Edge, all these are examples. So, Chrome is a web browser, so it's also a JavaScript engine.
Which ones?
Like for example, in JavaScript engine, examples given in the slides are Brave, Edge, Chrome, Chromium. But Chrome is a web browser.
Brave, Edge, Chrome, all are browsers, right? I guess they will be the browser that employ that engine, that embeds that particular engine.
So V8 is the JavaScript engine.
Yes, V8, SpiderMonkey, and there are more. Let me see. So there are two that I remember. But let me see. So what does Wikipedia say? It says the JavaScript engine is a software component that executes JavaScript code. Okay. So and again, JavaScript engines are typically developed by web browser vendors. So what they're doing, the web browsers are embedding these JavaScript engines, which act as the compiler for JavaScript code. Okay. And then let me see the examples. Yeah, so V8 is the most used, right? So V8 is there, SpiderMonkey is there, JavaScript Core, Chakra. So these are all the engines. So these are all what you can call as the compilers of JavaScript.
Okay. And so, like, what's the difference between GPU and CPU? Like, what's GPU like?
GPU is graphical processing unit, CPU is central processing unit. Okay, everything that you work with that does not involve things to display on your screen, the procedures or the processes that happen in the background are done by CPU. Okay, everything that you see on the screen, everything, the refresh rate, okay, the pixels, what pixel to show, what is showed with the RGB. Okay, so all this information is processed by GPU.
So, what extra stuff does it do? Like, when someone says that, like that person has GPU, then that person has more processing power or can do more work, and like, is it something?
Person.
Yeah, like having more GPU in the computer. Like, if you have GPU, then you have more storage power. Something is it?
No. If you have GPU, you have more. You will have better frame rate of your video or audio what you're playing. If you're playing games, if you're interested in playing games, a higher GPU will provide you higher frame rate. Okay, refresh rate. Okay, and then there is other things like screen bleeding. It reduces the screen bleeding. Okay, it reduces screen jacking. You might see that the screen splitting into two parts, so it reduces that thing. Okay, so
These
there are
like computer fixes like it has.
what sorry.
Like the image quality, like HDRI something. Like, does it improve the image quality?
Image, not the image quality. See what is happening with image, only one pixel, there is information on what should be the color of that pixel. Okay, that is one static constant value in the image. But in the video, that is changing with every second, right? Number of times, so many, like in the millions, it is changing within a second. So to change it so quickly and process it, that okay, this should be the color, this should be the rate by which the colors change, that is done by GPU. Everything that is not there on the screen is done by the CPU.
So
So these are yeah, so a GPU determines how quickly your system can render graphical output, right? So it is one word good answer for GPU. So there are an n number of processes. Some of those processes involve things to be displayed on screen. Okay, and there are various processes that do not even need screen. So how are those happening with CPU? Okay, and the process that involves screen will be done by both CPU and GPU, because GPU will only GPU, what it does, it will improve the quality of the things that are changing on the screen. But what are these things are given by the CPU? These are very broader concepts.
and so like
Okay,
what are machine clients?
what are machine clients?
Yes.
Have you used antivirus?
Yes, sir.
It is a machine client. Okay, so you have antivirus installed. Okay, every now and then a screen pops up and says your antivirus is about to expire, or your antivirus has successfully updated, you want to install or not. How has it updated it? It has requested the browser, it has requested the server. Okay, without your knowledge. So these are machine clients. So they perform certain request and response cycle within themselves without the knowledge of user.
And what does it mean that they typically cannot handle JavaScript only HTTP endpoints?
Yeah, so see JavaScript, can you come again with that statement? About HTTP endpoints I got, but what JavaScript did you mention?
So it says that it typically cannot handle JavaScript, only HTTP endpoints. It's about machine clients.
Hmm. Yeah, so see, machine clients will have certain fixed URL that they will request to. Okay, so when I talk about updating a resource in that machine client, so when you talk about, let's say, this thing, antivirus. Okay, so antivirus has to update its database with the malwares and viruses that are newly coming into the market. Okay, it has to update its database and also find a solution, antiviral program for that. Okay, so for that update, it will every time it will go to the same endpoint in the server, some fixed number of endpoints. Okay, does not have anything to do with the dynamic content of that server, right? So even that server which is giving the information on viruses and all, even if that server is providing some JavaScript, it will not be able to understand what that JavaScript is, because it is really bothered with the information, and for that it will reach to certain fixed numbers of URI, okay, which are predefined into the in that antivirus program. These are predefined. Okay, but if there is a change due to JavaScript, that will not in any way affect the functioning of this thing. Why? Because they don't understand what the JavaScript says.
And so, like, how do we get to know about like new updates in the market? Like,
So this, for example, if we talk about Quick Heal antivirus. Okay, so Quick Heal antivirus is not, so it has a version which is which is what we call it, which is an embedded application. Okay, what you install. Okay, it is an embedded application, but there is also a website, or there is also a server that is taking care of the information on the viruses. Okay, now this embedded application, okay, is making request to that server, and then the information is retrieved from that server, because everything, so if you install whatever you're installing in your system is static, it is limited. Okay, and if this information is getting updated, how is this information coming? This information is getting served from the server, which this machine clients connects to. So that embedded application also has a part which will be able to send a request to server and get information from there.
like they send requests like every day, or like is it like some?
It depends on how frequently you want to update. It is customizable.
Right.
It is customizable. If you see that, okay, do not send a update request to me every now and then, because if there is an update that is downloaded from the server of that machine client, it might prompt you to download updates. Okay, if you have given the option that ask me whenever you want to update. Okay, so it is completely customizable. All these processes are. Yeah, but making that request without your knowledge it is not customizable, because in that case you will not know what endpoint to go to get the information. Only that particular application knows. And I'm sure that you will not have time to every now and then go to certain endpoint and see, okay, what are the new viruses that have come in the market, let me download and get free from that. Then what is antivirus doing?
Right. Mm.
You're getting this thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that is therefore some requests are by themselves sent. That's why we call them machine clients. So these are machines, programs, but acting as clients to the servers.
So, like, what is WASM and MScript in like these languages?
WASM, it is a WebAssembly, right? WASM is WebAssembly. And MScripten is, I guess it is a compiler. Not sure. Just give me 1 minute. I'll make sure. So these concepts are basically introduced to get what we say an alternative to JavaScript. Okay, so when we talk about adding dynamic content to our web page, we talk about JavaScript, right? But what if I'm not very comfortable with JavaScript? What if I want to do all this stuff with C and C++? Okay, is there a way to write a code in C or C++, convert it into JavaScript, and then run it in the browser? Okay, so this is where WebAssembly and Emscripten comes into picture.
What's the difference between both?
Okay, just give me a minute. Emscripten is a compiler, I guess, and WebAssembly are set of rules how this compilation should happen. Okay, I just wanted to confirm what I'm saying, but as far as I know, see, WebAssembly are set of rules. Okay, set of rules as in when you want to convert from one language to another, how do you convert it so that it can be easily converted to JavaScript later? Okay, so you are writing a code in C, C++. Okay, and then the C and C++ will go to the Emscripten, which is a compiler. It will compile and convert this code into something that can be converted to JavaScript. Okay, so it works in that way. I'm not very well versed with the details how it happens in the background, but this is what is happening superficially.
Right.
Okay, does this give you a basic idea of that, what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Like, so it's just an option. Like, it's like we can just directly write JavaScript. It's for those people who work in C or C++. And
see, so whenever we are working with something, a technology, we will definitely try to find, is this it? Is JavaScript it? Can we not improve? Can we not find an alternative? So in the search of alternatives, we have come up with concepts like Emscripten, WebAssembly, Brython, all right, things like that.
And so
it is, yeah, go ahead.
So what is native mode?
What is native mode is your own system, right? A native mode is your own environment. You can call it an environment where your system is comfortable with, where it is not open to other resources in the server. Okay, where other resources or other programs cannot have access of your system. See, if you are connecting your application with the server, right, you are getting some information from the server, whatever is required. How can you make sure that your important information is not getting leaked to the server? Right, for that the server should have certain access, okay, certain limit to what it can access of your system. So there we talk about things like native mode and a concept called sandboxing. What is sandboxing? It gives access to sandboxing is that part where your server will access to. Other than that, it will not.
So, like, is there like any example like of native mode, like when we do this in real life, like example?
See, real life, so say this native mode, what you're currently you're working with on your system, right? Okay, you're using probably Google Meet or Zoom meeting to connect to the meeting. Okay, now this Zoom meeting and whatever information, let's say you're searching on the web. Okay, so that web, the server that is providing information to your web will have access to your system. Okay, but it will have access only to a certain part of browser. Okay, it will not have access to your personal files. It will not have access to your what we say file manager, right, where you can safely store your personal files, okay, your documents. It will not have access to that. Okay, uh, so if whatever things you're working in that part where the browser does not or the server does not have access is the native part. Okay, this is where you are doing something and the server does not have access. You call it a native mode. Okay.
So I didn't get the last line.
So if
There's
we,
between native
yeah,
part.
so see, we talk about, yeah, so we talk about, let's say, for example, you are on Flipkart. Okay. So you're on Flipkart, you have set up a wallet. Okay, let's say you have set up a Paytm wallet. And in your wallet, you have added 5,000 rupees. Now, if the Flipkart server has access to your wallet, it will never ask you to pay. It will definitely directly withdraw. So the payment, but is this payment wallet made in your own machine? No, right? It is still somewhere saved in the server, but not that server. It is still somewhere saved in the Paytm server. Okay, or whatever wallet you're using. Okay, so your Flipkart server will have access to your name. Okay, because you are definitely creating a profile in Flipkart, your account. So it will have access to it.
क्यों
Is anybody speaking?
मैं चला मेरे से
Hello, is anybody speaking? Just a minute. Yeah. So what I was saying? Oh, yeah. So the Flipkart server is having information about you as a client, as Flipkart. Okay. Now these wallets are also embedded in Flipkart, but will the Flipkart have access to, make changes in your wallet, add money, retrieve money? Will it do that?
No, sir.
No, right? So that is the native mode. You can create your wallet, but it is native to you. It is not open to the Flipkart server. Native place, right? The place where you stay. So native mode is the application, is the place where all your application and your saved data stay. Okay, where the server does not have access to. Okay, and then it depends on you whether to open it, to what extent. It all depends on you. Okay, if all these processes start to happen by themselves within the system, you will not, and you do not have any control over that, your Flipkart wallet is gone, or this Paytm wallet.
So it's basically native mode is like done in the code itself. We have to write a code where we don't allow these things, where we don't want to share information. It's not something any software.
No, you as a user don't have to do anything. The developer of the code will have to create,
Yes, like
will have to decide.
yeah, like it's in the code itself.
Yeah. What things to expose, what to not.
Yeah.
So when you will create this application, let's say you are creating a profile of user, okay, and you want other users to not access the profile of another user. Okay, so that limitation, that boundary will be created by you. Okay. Okay, all right. So this session, it looks like okay, there have been visits on slides and screencasts and questions. So it's really good. Yes, anything else?
If no one's asking it, can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
uh, I want to know capture, like this cache and this capture. Like, what's the difference between these two?
Is the cache content week 9 contents release? No, right? It will come.
The cache is like general, like we learned it from in the beginning only, like a little bit.
Yeah. Just wanted to know. See, this captcha is a part of security, so we'll deal with captcha in the next week. Okay. I'll give a quite detail. Okay, now cache. What is cache? The cache is some background information that is stored by the browser. Okay, so you have, there are things like cache, there is cookies, and then there is sessions. So cookies is that piece of information. Cache keeps that information safe. Okay, safe as in confined to that particular object. For example, I'm a user. Okay, I'm user of a website, and I have my account on that website. So when I log in, certain information from my side is going to the website. Okay, so where should this information, which is important to me, which is only related to me, where should this information get stored? Okay, so this information is encrypted and stored in sessions. Okay, and where this session is stored, this session is stored in the cache. So we call it cache memory. It is a memory location. Okay, so it is one of the part of memory hierarchy, I guess. But it is a memory location where your secretive information based on that session is saved.
Security information, you mean?
Security information as in information which is confined to you. So if you're using a website, you would not want your username and password to be visible to everyone that uses the website. Okay, how does the website, how will the website server handle that? It will save your information as a part of session in the cache. So it is a memory location in the server.
So, like, what is the like definition of a session?
Session is nothing but a dictionary that saves this information in the form of key and value. Now, what information, that depends on you. Okay, what in you as in what type of information the server is taking. For example, so again we talk about login. So when we log in, we give our username and password. Okay, so username and the actual value of username, password and actual value of password encrypted are saved in session as a part of dictionary. It is a special dictionary. You can call it as a special dictionary which is saved by the server. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we'll go into details of cache and session in the week 9 live sessions where we'll talk about login, right? Login as in we'll talk about creating server side sessions and creating login page where we will set certain information. So you want your password to be saved by the server, but not used by the server. Okay. In that case, what will happen? Your server will directly be able to log in. Right. So that should not happen. But certain what we say limitation, certain extension you give to the server. Okay, remember me whenever I come back to this website. Okay. So the server then uses that information and logs you in automatically.
Can they be like cookies even if we don't log in? Like we just visit a website, will it still save
Okay.
like our information?
No, you're not giving any information to the server. How will it save?
Because whenever I visit a website and I don't log in, it still says like information about cookies, like do you accept it or not? So does it like
So that's what you accept it or not, right?
it's
So
not
when you accept, so see what happens is when you accept it, and what will happen if there is any, so if you go into that website and if it is, let's say, an e-commerce website, again like Flipkart e-commerce website, and you accept cookies, not login. Okay, but still the website, when you log in, sorry, when you visit it back, it will be sometimes prompt you, okay, start where you left. How does it know that that you have left from here? So those information based on your browsing browsing capability, not the capability, your browsing way, the way you browse. Okay, the things that you browse, it will store that information. Okay, this was visited, this was visited. Okay, this was last visited. This means when you go back to the same site, it will show you, okay, this is the last visited, you go. This happens when you accept the cookies. Okay, so it will allow it will start saving your activities.
they just remember the device, like that device which uses that website.
Okay. Yeah. So, Pushpak, you want to speak something? Just give me a minute. I'll come back. You can speak.
Uh, Basically, I want to know, do we set this cache thing? Like, do we need to do something else to set it up, or is it done automatically?
Hello.
Yes. Basically, I was asking that do we need to do some extra work to set this whole cache thing, or is it done automatically?
No, it's done automatically. It is done. So if you see, if whenever there is some information that you are giving to the server, whenever, okay, a session is set, and that session will ask the cache to do the things.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so
one more
so if
thing.
you're not giving any information to the server, that information will not be saved anywhere. So if there is no information to save anywhere, there is no requirement of session, then there is no requirement of cache. Okay, now this is the mandatory information that you give. As now, when Mehak was talking, she was saying that do you accept cookies? And then this information, the other information like the sites, the activity, your activity, which you are not saying server, okay, I'm visiting this, I'm visiting this. Server by itself, that application by itself is saving. Okay. So it is in that case also it will start saving information in the cache.
So like I have one more question. Like we save the session information, cookie information on our device, right? So yeah, you saying something?
No, your voice was breaking a bit.
Okay.
Can you
Am I
just
audible
repeat this
now?
part? Yes.
So like we save the session information and cookie information on our device, right?
You save the session information and cookie information on your device.
Yeah, we do that.
Is what you're saying? No, it depends on what type of session it is. If it is a client-side session, the information will be stored. It will be saved in the cookies. Okay. If it is server-side session, the information will be saved in the server.
So like if we talk about the client side session, so is it possible like let's say there are two systems and I copy the session information from one device to another. So will I, let's say there's this login information or something. So can I just copy the login information from the other device to my device? So will that be allowed?
Okay, but the thing is, see, I'm not sure if this will actually work. It should not. Why? Because that is the reason we are having session at the first place, to provide that security. But if you see that if the session is stored, the session is not stored the way you have given information. For example, username and your username, password and your password. The session does not store it this way. The session stores it in an encrypted way.
Okay.
Okay, so if the way is encrypted, you copy that encrypted part. It is visible in the session. You can see that part of session will be visible. Okay, but if you try to copy that part, whatever the content of the session is, how will you get back to the original data?
Okay.
See, I've said that it is a dictionary. Yes, it is a dictionary only to your system. Once it is saved in an encrypted way. So unless you know how to decrypt it, you won't be able to do it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so when we will work with Flask session and Flask login, I'll show you this thing.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Okay, so anything else? Yeah, Divanshu, want to speak something? Okay, any more questions? Okay, somebody speaking? Rohit,
Sir,
are you speaking?
sir,
Yes, yes.
I have doubt regarding Big 7 live assignment.
Okay.
One, like there is some code, and for adding there is a code to
Rohit, your
roll
voice
number.
is breaking. Hello, Rohit. Sorry, your voice is breaking a lot.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Your voice was breaking. Can you speak again what you were speaking?
Can I write in the chat?
Sure, sure, sure. If there is a network issue, you can write in the chat. Okay. Till then, till Rohit writes anything on the chat, is there any other thing that we can discuss on? Yeah, so one liner again, a CAPTCHA is a security verification mechanism. Yeah, so you may have seen that wherever you are visiting sites like railway, and if you order something again, and then it wants to verify if you are a what we say, if you are a valid user, a legit user, it will ask you to fill CAPTCHA. Okay, so that CAPTCHA is not what actually it looks, right? So it asks you for to add 1 2 3 4, and if you add 1 2 3 4, you're not a robot. Does not happen that way, but this is what it CAPTCHA is. Okay, so it verifies whether the user is or the whether the request is made by a legit user or it was some JavaScript toy.
Sir, I think nowadays that reCAPTCHA is used, that I am not a robot of Google. Because now with the machine learning and AI thing, that bots are able to read that thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, so there is a development in that also. Correct.
So you can show how to use that in my own website, that reCAPTCHA thing of Google.
So you need to, see what happens is in the back, in the front, you see that, okay, it is asking you to add 1 or 2 or whatever values there are. But in the background, there is more to that. Okay. So in background, what happens at the server side, what happens, it tracks your activity of mouse also. Okay. A robot will not even take millisecond to respond. But a human mind will have to interpret what is there on the screen, the way this mouse is moving, the cursor is moving, all these things are interpreted. So this happens in the background. What we see is not simply adding numbers and verifying. Okay, so there is
Yes, sir.
more to that.
I was asking how to use that I am not a robot box in my own website. How to implement that? How to use that Google reCAPTCHA? I was asking that to validate
Okay.
something in my own website.
Okay, so you might have to add JavaScript a bit. Okay, because browsers, sorry, the HTML by itself does not as far as I know, does not provide a facility to that. So you need to add, you employ JavaScript there. Okay. By any chance, if you want to validate what the user is adding is right or not, then you can use a form validation, HTML. Right. So I guess you will have to add JavaScript, work this with JavaScript, because it is not a simple read and write thing, right? The things are happening in the background. Some some code is or some logic is written to understand the activity. Okay, and then and that can be targeted by JavaScript rather than simple HTML form validation and things like that. Okay, so since we are using JavaScript at the very basic level, I'm not sure if you should waste your time in doing that. A simple validation would suffice.
Okay, sir.
Okay, but you can definitely go through it as a part of your application. You can do, no issues with that. Okay, so I've got, yeah, Arya, Arja. Okay, so I've got a response from Rohit.
So maybe you muted yourself, like accidentally.
Yeah, I did that purposely, by the way. I was reading this. So there is a code for adding student roll number, but this code is not matching with the figure. There is star. There is star, right? Can we modify the code or use only that given in the PDF? Uh, this code for adding student roll number. This code is not matching with the figure. Okay. So what you're saying, it is not matching with the headings or what? With the table?
Sir, labeling of roll number.
Labeling of roll number. It's not matching with that. Is this
Like
a part of
there,
typo?
maybe sir.
No, see
There
the
is column.
yeah. So there were some typographical error made in the question statement which were corrected earlier, right? Have you gone through that thread?
No, sir. No, sir. Not gone.
Hello. Yeah, I think you can go through that thread, Rohit, first. Okay, if possible, let me give you a link to that. Just a minute. Yeah, I'm not finding that link for now, but I'll give that link on of the discourse, right, Rohit?
Okay, sir.
Just a minute. Let me see.
Hi.
There is a thread with missing. No, sorry. Wait. Some errors were identified by students and then marked. So I guess corrections were done on that. So I need you to see that part. If your doubt still persists, just let me know. Yes, I have given the link in the chat. Okay, you can have a visit, have a look at this. Okay, so anything else? Any other questions? Hello.
Yeah, sir.
Yes, Bhavya, wanted to speak anything?
Sir, I had a question regarding the project. Most often trackers are used with some sort of like
sensors.
Yes, sir. Something to interface them with an
No,
Arduino
not
or a
that.
Raspberry
No,
Pi.
no,
We
no.
just need to create a functionality for it, right?
Yeah, that's what. You don't have to see, your tracker will by itself not do anything.
Yeah, so we just need to make something that if anyone wants, they can add something to it and combine it with a sensor or something to make it fully operational.
Yeah, that is then project on next level, right?
All right.
Because we then in that case your database is not filled by your self, like the form, okay, but it is filled by that sensor, the information it is getting from the sensor. So it's not that tracker, so it's not something that we look into our smartwatches. It is not that. It is like creating a tracker, okay, in creating the fields that you want to enter as a part of that tracker and put information manually, so that next time you come in and then you know, okay, this was my last activity.
So a manual log of sorts, right?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, if you can write some logic, right? So if you have seen in the question statement, you should be able to give the type. Like a user should be able to decide the type of what input he's giving, right? So for in case of the kilometers that I'm running, in the case of running tracker, if I'm adding a feature that will take up the number of kilometers, that number of kilometers should be stored as a part of as an integer. Okay. Now, if I want to add a new field, okay, a new field, for example, in the same running tracker, also I wanted to have a look, have a track of how many turns I'm taking. Along with kilometers I'm running, I also want to keep a track of turns I'm taking. So that turn will also be a number. So the user should be able to create that number of turns as a field and the type of input as a field. Okay, the user should be able to do that. So it is simply creating a structure and then filling it manually and then keeping a track of it.
Got it, sir.
Yeah. And so if you think logically, how will you, so you need to add a wireless sensor that connects with your application and then gives information in case if you're running. Okay, now adding a sensor, retrieving information and connecting it, connecting a sensor to your application, right, is probably out of the scope of this course. Can you still not do it? You can do it, no issues. Okay, but basic functionalities have to be achieved first. Okay.
Yeah, sir. Got it. Thanks.
So, all right. Anything else?
So since we did not have a solve with instructor session this week, so like would it be there at the time it usually is in the next week, or would it be like earlier, like on Wednesday itself, or like something like that?
You know, we had the solve instructor session, right, yesterday.
Yeah, I meant like the coding, the
coding thing, right? Yeah,
coding thing, yeah.
No, that is scheduled for Fridays, so we'll keep it on Fridays.
Okay.
Right. So every solve with instructor, so we are not left with many, but still the remaining, all the solve with instructor sessions are planned for Friday only. If so, they will change only if there is a faculty meeting with you, right? So if the faculty joins and want to discuss, and by any chance want to join on Friday instead of Saturday, or by himself decides that he can take a meeting on Friday, then in that case the solver instructor session will not be there.
Okay, so
Sir, one more thing, like our score for live sessions and discourse got updated yesterday.
Okay.
So is this score for discourse, like, is it for the first 4 weeks?
Sorry, I haven't gone through that. Let me go through that and I'll let you know. Okay.
All right.
Okay, because so this tracking of your live sessions and things are done by operational team. Okay, so we'll get back to go through that, ask them what is actually happening, and then let you know.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, still got time. If there is anything else, I'll try to address that. Okay, apart from this, if at the after this session, if you feel like if still there is some doubt I need to ask, you can, you know, ask in other sessions and put it on discourse. So discourse, we try to answer within limited time, but the thing is, certain things cannot be, you know, very deeply explained on discourse. So I would suggest you to recommend you to join live sessions and then ask there. Okay, things that get cleared in live sessions are better. Okay, so I guess it's 12:45 now. If there is nothing that that we can discuss on, we can call it a day, right? Okay, so if there is anything, just unmute yourself and answer. Otherwise, we can close the session.
So just one last question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What is this access to native sources? Like,
sorry?
Access to native resources, like we can use JavaScript to write native applications. What does it mean? Native sources, native applications.
So the native application, see, native sources, I'm not very sure. Okay, native applications are those which again will not have access to the server. Okay, the native applications are embedded applications. For example, calculator. Calculator will not require web server or web connection to web for that matter, right? So it is a native application or embedded application or GUI applications. So these are native applications.
It's not the same as native mode, right?
Sorry?
It's not the same as the native mode.
No, it's not. The native mode is an environment, right? It is an environment which gives access or limitation to the server which it cannot cross. Okay, so it is an environment where you can keep stuff which you want to hide from the server. Okay, why do you want to hide those stuff from the server? Because server has access to that application. So if somebody is coming at your home, you would want to keep a room closed where you keep important things. Why? Because that person is having access to your home. Okay, so that particular room is your native mode. Okay.
And web application is basically any device like calculator or anything which doesn't have
Native application.
Yeah, they don't have any access to servers basically.
Yeah.
But why does it say that we can use JavaScript to write native applications?
So you're saying that, okay, so it says that JavaScript can be used to write native applications. See, because the native applications are those applications which work on your computer, okay, which gets installed in your computer, okay, but might require some information from the server. Okay, so this calculator will not do that, right? But there are some applications that might require some information that can be dynamically set up in that application, okay, from the server. In that case, you might need JavaScript. So when you talk about an application, again, we'll talk about Flipkart. Okay, so Flipkart, and then we'll talk about here in the mobile application. So mobile application, Flipkart has a mobile application. Okay, so that is getting installed, right? So since it is getting installed, it is it should be a native application, but it makes use of web for updating certain information, right? So there is a level of access which it is giving to server.
Yes.
So this is where you link an installed application to the server. Okay, so when you install an application which is running natively on your machine, but it uses server by any chance, the server might be running JavaScript. Okay, because the server is again a web, but your application is there native.
It's different from machine client because in machine client we don't use JavaScript. We use static, and in
Yes,
mobile
yes, yes.
applications we use JavaScript. So that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, that is a difference between the two, but we cannot say that native applications are not machine clients. Okay, this is about service, right? If you talk about application, yeah, but for now, okay, let's not go into detail. For now, you can consider that correct. Native applications are different from machine clients. Okay, so if we see, the thing is, these things are so interjected together, we cannot easily differentiate them. Okay, so if you keep on talking in detail, then we'll keep on coming with certain, okay, but this is happening, but in that case, this is happening. So we cannot have a perfect definition. Okay, because applications are designed nowadays designed so that they can work natively, access server, make request without the knowledge. So everything they can do. Okay, so we cannot create a boundary between these, but for the understanding, we can understand, okay, a native application works in the machine. A machine client is something that works in the machine but sends a request to the server. Okay, and a native application that makes use of JavaScript is something that might be requiring some information from the server.
Right, sir.
Okay, so I would not recommend you to create a boundary between these, because practically you cannot.
If rather they would have been defined as properties, then we could have drawn boundaries and we could say that this application has these properties.
Yes, but that is not happening nowadays, right? Every application is capable of doing so many other things. Yeah, so the more we read, the more things get clear, right? So might not be clear completely to you at this stage, but if you keep on reading on more on these things, it will be probably what I said will make more sense.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. What was that again? Native resources, right? So I'll get back to you with that. I'm not sure.
Isn't the same slide like access to native sources and native applications? It's in the same slide.
Got it. Got it. So native resources, I'm not sure. See, this is I'm not sure, as I said. But if you try to work out with whatever the wordings are, native, that is something that is related to machine. Okay, my own machine. Resources, information. So maybe native resources are something that relates to files on our machine.
Yes, because there's a line saying can also be compiled directly to native resources.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe, but we'll get a confirm clarification on that, and we'll let you know.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, so is that it? Is it fine if we close the session? It is, if there are no doubts. Okay, fine. I think there are no doubts now. There are no queries that needs to be taken care of immediately. So if you still have any doubt, you can go to Discourse and keep those saved for other live sessions coming. Okay, but for now, I guess this is probably it. Okay, so we'll close this session. Thanks a lot for joining, and thanks for asking these questions, because this will give us an idea of that, okay, there is good participation. All right. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, so if you can drop the session, right? So